The Magic Pro Tour is one of the hardest competitions in gaming. It's 16 rounds of Swiss followed by a top 8. If you make it to the finals, you've played 19 matches. That alone makes it mentally demanding in a way most games don't match. That it's an individual event even more so. You don't get a coach, you don't really get much of a break. And there's only one player in Pro Tour history who's gone undefeated in those 16 merciless Swiss rounds.
There's no free matches at the Pro Tour.
In the ballpark of 100 Pro Tours, 400 players each Pro Tour, and only one person at one tournament has ever achieved it.
You're lucky to have a 55% win percentage, 60% win percentage of the best players in the world. So going undefeated and is just, yeah, it's an incredible accomplishment.
It's not John Finkel or PVDDR, the greatest players of all time. It's not Kai Buda, winner of a whopping 7 Pro Tours. It's Luis Scott Vargas. The event was Pro Tour San Diego 2010, and it would lead to a run of victories that has never been surpassed, an undeniably impressive achievement, and yet this story would end in disappointment. Luis Scott Vargas, aka LSV, was already a fixture in the Pro Magic scene by 2010. He had made his Pro Tour debut in 2004 and had top 8 at 2 Pro Tours before San Diego, winning one in Berlin in 2008.
Turn this. Okay, who needs glimpse when you've got Weird Harvest? There's the handshake! Congratulations, Scott Pro Tour!
Safe to say, this is not an underdog story, but Luis still had fierce competition in a stacked field of big names and rising stars. Paul Rietzel, Gabriel Nassif, Tom Ross, Martin Yuza, Shuhei Nakamura, Eric Froelich, Yuya Watanabe, and many other future Hall of Famers were in town. Luis spent the weeks prior to the tournament sequestered in a testing house, honing decks and strategies.
I didn't have any goals coming in. It was just like, hey, we're going to try to build a good deck. We're going to try to, do our best in the Pro Tour, just like every time.
He downplays his ability, but the people who know him and his play certainly don't.
Luis is the best player I've ever seen play, full stop.
Luis was the guy, like he was my hero, and all I wanted to do was get better so that I could be as close to Luis Scott Vargas as I could.
His ability to process board states, his ability to process like the right play as fast as he does and as well as he does is just, I've never seen anything like it.
I've played Team GPs with him. He literally has all 3 boards, knows the best play, whatever, and will be watching the match next to us because he's bored.
He has an innate understanding of the game that other players don't. Imagine playing purely by intuition and being right almost all the time.
He just knows things that other people don't, and it's incredible.
That ability to quickly understand and process the complexities of Magic would prove crucial. Magic was entering an unprecedented era of powerful decks and cards. Looking at that metagame, you see Bloodbraid Elf and Lightning Bolt in standard decks, Noble Hierarch and Path to Exile too. These decks look like they've come from a modern event.
This was right after Worldwake had come out. Jace and Stoneforge were both in the format. This was far before they were known as the best cards. So there were a couple of Jace decks running around, but because Bloodbraid Elf was still legal, Jace wasn't even that big of a deal. If you played Jace and they go Bloodbraid Elf Lightning, you didn't really get ahead. Also, nobody was playing Stoneforge. We played 2 Stoneforge Mystic in our deck. Like, Caw-Blade wasn't, still on the horizon. So we ended up playing kind of a mid-rangey deck in a sea of mostly mid-range decks.
In the testing house, Luis and Team Channel Fireball knew what the best deck was. Jund. It was dominant, coupling powerful creatures with stellar removal in a classic mid-range archetype. Figuring out whether to play it or try to beat it would define the event for the team.
Our testing was a little chaotic, and we weren't really sure what to play. We didn't really want to play Jund, which in retrospect was kind of a mistake. It's hard to say it was a mistake given how well we did, but we didn't really want to play Jund, even though it was the best deck. And we really wanted to play Nether Reliquary. I have a bit of a stubborn streak in me, and this was worse back then, where I just didn't want to play the best deck.
The decision was made to play Tom Ross's Boss Naya deck. It's a little faster, a little more aggressive than the dominant Jund deck, but still a mid-range deck with good removal and a powerful suite of creatures.
Walk us through what this deck does.
Typical game? Well, it has 6 turn 1 plays. For accelerants, but it's not necessarily you have to go from 1 to 3 in your curve. We don't have that many 3-drops. It's built to have a consistent four drop on turn 3 kind of thing. With these and this, and we play a lot of lands like Terramorphic Expanse that kind of helps to get to the Cattles of 3/3. our removal package is kind of low, but we felt like we didn't need it because our creatures should be superior to theirs with Behemoth Sledge and Basilisk Collar.
Yeah, now the Stoneforge Mystic's an exciting card. This is you're basically telling me that this card single-handedly replaced Baneslayer Angel in your Naya deck.
Right.
The biggest breakthrough for the deck, by far, was a card we never tested, a card we never played with. We put 4 Cunning Spark Mages, 0-1 haste, tap to do 1 damage, and a Basilisk Collar in the sideboard. Played 0 games with it, and we just said, like, you know, this sounds awesome against green-white. I bet this is going to be good.
It felt like a knife and a gun fight a lot of the time, because you'd see the Stoneforge Mystic, and then there's the Cunning Spark Mage out of the board, pings to deal 1 damage, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go and get this Basilisk Collar. It has lifelink, but more importantly, it has Death Touch, thanks for play. So at that point, you know it's an extraordinary player playing with an extraordinary deck.
With the deck chosen, the only thing left to worry about was the games.
Players this weekend are going to play in 5 rounds of Standard to start day 1 of the Pro Tour. It's a new format. We've introduced World Wake into the mix. It's the first premier event using World Wake in Standard, so, you know, who knows what that'll mean. At the end of 5 rounds, there'll be 3 rounds of draft. And draft will be Zendikar World Wake draft. And then at the end of those 8 rounds, every player with a 5-3 record or better will advance to day 2. And on day 2, we're going to do the flip of that. So it'll be 3 rounds of draft, followed by 5 rounds of Standard. And those 5 rounds of Standard are going to be the rounds that determine who makes it into the top 8 of Pro Tour San Diego.
Not for the faint of heart, and those who make it out of the writhing mass of competitors that is the Swiss portion face another day of play in the top 8. Worse for Luis. He was struggling with limited.
Going into the Pro Tour, we were coming off something like a 6-month losing streak where I hadn't won a match of limited, because Triple Zendikar is like renowned for being one of the fastest formats, and I was having a really hard time adjusting. I did not want to do that.
Luis describes certain moments in a tournament as defining success, the moments you know things are going your way.
So there's always a couple of interesting breakpoints in a Pro Tour. Before round 1, you get the draft, right? You draft your deck, you really hope it goes well. When you start wheeling good cards, or when it's very clear that, like, you know, for right now in Ravnica, you get a 6-pick Dimir card on your Dimir, you're like, wow, I'm doing it, this is awesome. You finish drafting your deck. You then have to play your deck. And if your deck's great and you are right, sometimes you'll go 2-1 or 3-0 and you'll feel really good. Then it's the second nervous part, which is my constructed deck playable? Is it good? Is it terrible? Is it broken? You don't know the answers to this. And so after round 1 of constructed, the whole team comes back, it's like, how'd everyone do? Hey, did you win? Did you win? Did you win? Because if we went like 10-2 in the first round, you know, the 12 of us, we'd be like, wow, our deck's great. If we go like 4-8, it's like, did we make a big mistake? Are we all screwed?
That was the big question for Luis and the team. Their choice of Boss Naya was a rogue one, not the best deck, not even favored against certain versions of the best deck. Jund with Deathmark was a particularly big problem.
After a couple rounds of constructed, we were winning so well enough, and Tom Ross, you know, he's actually Tom the Boss Ross, who came up with the deck. He ended up going 9-1 with the deck. So at all points, the two of us had a really good record with the deck, and the rest of the team had okay records.
The choice paid off, particularly for Luis. By the end of day 1, he was 8-0, but a lot of magic is left after day 1. Even with that record, top 8 is far from guaranteed. 12 wins is about what's needed to make top 8, and often an extra point from a draw to make sure.
Rich BDM here with you, bringing you the day 1 wrap. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Here it is. We begin with Gabriel Nassif of France, the winner of the first Pro Tour last time around. If you want to see how he did it, go along to the draft viewer. You can see every pick, how he got from 5-0 to 8-0. Also with him,
yeah, don't neglect to mention Luis Scott Vargas, his opponent in the finals of that historic Pro Tour last year. Luis is playing the Boss Naya deck that's taken this tournament by storm. He also went on to draft an incredible Vampires deck. He swept through the tournament.
tomorrow, set your watches. We have the mother of all matchups. Coming very soon is this. Nassif against LSV, and this time it's draft.
So I felt pretty good at the end of day one because I was 8-0, that was awesome. Nassif was 8-0, which means I was going to play him in draft, that was also awesome. And then I was really just looking forward to it because when you start 8-0, to some degree there's this like weight of expectation where it's like, you don't want to be the guy who went 8-0 and blew it, right? Who just crashed and burned on day two. But if you're 8-0, a lot can go wrong on day two and you can still make top 8. Like, you have to go like 4-3-1. That is not a hard record. You already did the heavy lifting. Going 4-3-1 is not that hard. Honestly, I don't feel much pressure to perform under any of the circumstances that I could find myself in. Mostly because I know that all I can do is play my best. If I play my best and I lose, couldn't do anything else. And if I play my best and I win, awesome. I'm not really that worried about like the outcome.
That mindset to just play his best is part of what makes Luis a champion, and what helped him 3-0 the second draft of the tournament with another monocolored deck.
And so your deck ended up being mono green. It ended up working out perfectly for you. Were there any close calls?
Yeah, I had a really close match against Gabe Nassif. Game 3, it came down to both like a huge board stall, and he knew he was dead if I ever drew Eldrazi Monument, and he couldn't kill me because I had a Glade Heart. So we just sat there for 10 turns till I drew Eldrazi Monument.
And I think probably once you get past Nassif in round 9, which is the first, 50-50, someone as good as Luis at Magic, he's probably favored in all his matchups.
Once he was back at the tables for Standard, the goals switched from winning the tournament to something much bigger. Something few players could ever achieve.
And so now you're 12-0. You've actually done better than your start at Pro Tour Kyoto last year, at the start of last season. What does the rest of the day look like for you?
Hopefully win 4 more matches. I mean, I want to keep going. I mean, there's no reason to stop.
You'll really go for the 16-0?
Yeah, I think if it's like a good friend of mine and I play, like I value them in the top 8 more than trying to go XO. But I mean, honestly, like all things being equal, I would rather win my matches.
Honestly, the thing that really made me push to do that was I wanted to be in the Hall of Fame. That was a goal of mine. It felt like an irreachable goal earlier, but I was looking down the barrel at my 3rd Pro Tour top 8, and I knew if I won my last 4 rounds, if I went 16-0, that's just something that hadn't been done before, and that would help. So I was really like looking to the future for that.
The legacy, the spot in the pantheon of legends, it was all in reach after round 12. Luis was all but locked for top 8. Now he was playing to go undefeated.
I was at that Pro Tour, and it felt special the whole time. When he was 8-0, when he was 10-0, when he was 12-0, when we started to feel like maybe he would actually do it.
Everybody was aware of what Luis was doing. After every round, it was less about how did your round go, it was more about did Luis win another round.
I was rooting for him so hard. He just seemed like a cool guy, and it was such a sweet thing to watch him run through.
The interesting thing about Pro Magic play in later rounds of an event like the Pro Tour is that many players who are doing well can take the opportunity to intentionally draw. The top of the standings can take a break before top 8, can let their friends and teammates who are also doing well increase their odds of winning. At 12-0, Luis had to not only win 4 more, but also hope that he didn't cross paths with a teammate.
So at 12-0, I'm a lock for top 8, but I have to play round 13 pretty much no matter what, because no one else can draw with me. I get paired against like an 11-1 or whatever. Honestly, all that went through my head the last couple rounds was I hope I don't play against a friend. Because if I played against one of my teammates, and I'm in a position where I can knock them out of top 8 just to try to go undefeated, I would feel pretty bad. Like, I would not want to be in that position. I'm actually really glad I didn't play against any of my close friends. Not to say that I played against 4 enemies, but there was no one I felt particularly bad about defeating, I'll admit.
Another Magic player came to mind for Luis too.
Yeah, once I was like 12-0, I immediately thought about Ryan Fuller going 14-0 at PT Tokyo. Like, I did know about the previous record.
Fuller had been the closest to an undefeated run at a Pro Tour before, reaching 14-0 at Pro Tour Tokyo in 2001 before crashing out in the quarterfinals of top 8. He had managed the same undefeated streak in Swiss, but with 14 rounds. This was Luis's chance to top that.
There were sort of rumors swirling around that he was going to, at least for now, and this is in sort of round 14, he might play again.
The last 2 rounds saw Luis getting tired, making mistakes, but it still worked out just fine.
My last round, this is one of the funnier plays I actually made in the tournament, or in most tournaments. I'm playing against an opponent who has 2 copies of Putrid Leech in play, so you can pay 2 life to give it +2/+2. I have an Arid Mesa out. On my turn, I sacrifice it, get a mountain, and say go, which I don't have really any reason to do, except I wanted him to think that I had a Lightning Bolt in hand. Except, strategically, that's actually not even good. I can always do it in response. But I just wanted to put it in his head. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt. So he didn't pump his leeches when he hit me, and I won the game at like 2 life.
With 16-0 achieved, Luis had done something no one else ever had, an achievement that would stand forever.
Let's just talk for a second about the accomplishment Luis Scott Vargas pulled off in this event. Never before in the history of the Pro Tour has a player gone through the Swiss rounds and won 16 straight matches.
That incredible achievement couldn't be celebrated yet, though. There was more Magic to play.
You know, when Scott Larrabee read out that I had 48 match points, that I had gone 6-0, it felt pretty incredible because I knew that no matter what happened in the top 8, I would still have this. Like, this was a record I would have. The top 8 was a completely different animal. Obviously, I cared about the top 8 a lot, but I had gotten this thing that no one could take away from me.
Beating Ryan Fuller's record with 2 additional rounds may have put Luis in an elite class, but winning the Pro Tour, going undefeated all the way, that was a possibility as the top 8 began. A tantalizing chance to stamp his name in the history of Magic, not just running the Swiss tables, but not dropping a single match and taking the trophy home.
I wasn't really worried about top 8 till kind of we went out to dinner and then started practicing and thinking about it.
He went from 16-0 to 0-0, right? Like everyone else in the top 8. So there was no sense of continuing that run. Yes, it was the same deck, but now it was no losses to give. The first loss was fatal. And so in a sense, it felt like yesterday's story in a way. And it was like, yes, clear favorite, amazing deck, amazing player. And now here's the top 8 of Pro Tour San Diego.
Here we are for Pro Tour San Diego 2010. It is the top 8, and as you head into the arena with us, the 8 players are ready to get it on. And we begin at the front table. There you see Mr. Luis Scott Vargas, the man from Channel Fireball, in pursuit of history. 16-0. He faces Jeroen Canis with his mono red deck. There he is, the 28-year-old from Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
I thought it was pretty close. I thought the matchup against Mono Red was close. I also knew that, as it turns out, PT San Diego was one of the least experienced top 8s overall. You know, number of great players in the top 8. In fact, Simon is now a well-known commentator, great guy, plays very well. But at that time, it was like kind of me and 7 people who had never top 8 at a tournament before. So I thought that I might get a little bit of edge based on that as well.
So that is a 3-3, which is going to become a 5-5.
Attack for 6. Attack for 6. Yep. Good game, and there you have it. That is the sweep.
3-0 for Luis Scott Vargas, 17-0 for the tournament.
Luis's confidence was high. He was 17-0 and just 2 matches from immortality. And then, a man who considered skipping the tournament entirely was next in his path, Simon Goertzen. Better known for coverage these days, but a formidable opponent with an incredible analytical mind.
Simon's was the worst matchup for me in the top 8, because he was playing 27 land Jund that had death marks, so I wouldn't be able to go under him. Death mark is really good against that.
So I was facing one of the best players in the world with an unbeaten record, which had never happened before as far as I know, and he was playing a deck that they designed to beat my deck. However, my other friends that we traveled with had already been testing semifinals for me, and I didn't get much of a strategic advice or sideboarding advice. I also didn't really need that. I knew what I was doing, but they just gave me the thumbs up and said, it's not that bad. Your matchup is quite good, especially after sideboarding, and that gave me a lot of confidence.
And I had a chat with Simon, who I knew a little bit from the European Grand Prix scene, and I said, you know, how do you feel about, you know, you're in the same half as Luis, and he was like, that's fantastic. It's exactly where I want to be.
It was an uphill battle for Luis in what turned out to be quite a bad matchup.
And we are ready for Pro Tour San Diego 2010. You see there are just 2 matches remaining. On the front table, Luis Scott Vargas of the United States from Oakland, California, up against, there he is, you see him
I'd rather play against Jund than that white-blue deck, though.
Yeah, there he is talking about quite happy not to face Niels Bjorn in the semi-finals. He is facing Simon Goertzen of Germany. There you see him in the magic shirt. And Goertzen very happy to be here in his first Pro Tour top 8, 50 lifetime pro points, but first PT top 8 to get here. So we are underway in game 1, and Luis Scott Vargas has opened up with a Forest and Wild and Cattle, and as you would expect, drawing up on the Jund side, it is Savage Lands.
Savage Lands, the classic opening for Jund.
So now we have Elf, 3 tokens, and a Thrynax with token been waiting, but yeah. I do not care that you have improved your board position. This card in my hand does nothing about the board. This just kills you. And now Goertzen comes with Broodmate Dragon, 4 and 4. Such an exciting card. In comes the Thrynax.
The double dragon.
Yep.
And that is it. We are 1-1 in the semi-final between LSV and Simon Gertzen.
Go to 8? Yep. I go to 17. Yep.
Gertzen pays 2 for the Putrid Leech, so deals 4 damage. He does not care about dropping to 17.
Yep, there goes the Raging Ravine.
And we are done. 2-1 to Simon Gertzen.
I'm down 1-2 against Simon, right? I win game 1, lose the next 2. It's game 4. If I lose, I'm done. I mulligan to 5. My 5-card hand is quite bad. And then we get held for 20 minutes so the other match can conclude. And the whole time I'm just sitting there looking at my 5 cards thinking, I'm not going to win, I'm not going to win.
Counter, and that is it. So Kyle Bogomez takes a 2-1 lead.
Okay,
So
we're underway here. Let's look at this.
So LSV must win this game. He has not faced this scenario at all this weekend.
Worth noting, LSV started this game on 5 cards. Did not look like a full hand when they started.
So Arid Mesa and Terramorphic Expanse for LSV on the left of your screen. Gertzen has another Bloodbraid Elf back to back.
Into Deathmark.
There's a trade there, and Luis is at 10. And the way he said it was not promising, and there goes Noble Hierarch as well. Gertzen liking the look of the situation right now. 6 power of men on the table.
Go.
Is this the moment that the journey ends? It is! Gertzen wins!
Good luck.
Gertzen wins by 3 games to 1
Tectonic Edge
over Luis Scott Vargas of the United States. The mulligan to 5. He had the cards in hand. The Range Reveals looked to bring him back into game. Not much to say about this. Well, there is something to say about this, Simon Gertzen. You are the 18th man who has stood opposite Luis Scott Vargas, but wowee, you are the first one to take him down. You go down in history, my friend.
It seemed that all at once, Luis's luck had run out in an anticlimactic loss.
It didn't feel right. You know, like, I think that we all wanted that thing to happen where he just ran it all the way through and just had that, like, mind-blowing, once-in-a-lifetime thing. I was disappointed.
He was crushed. He was really defeated, not just in a literal sense. You could see that it hurt him and that he was quite disappointed with his exit.
Yeah, that top 4 actually is one of the most singularly disappointing moments of my Magic career. You know, it was unfortunate. It was really disappointing, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to get another opportunity to 19-0 a Pro Tour. You know, that's the next step, right, is to just go undefeated the whole Pro Tour.
Simon would go on to the final and take down the tournament.
It did feel like people were looking at it like I destroyed an opportunity, and an opportunity for Luis, but also for history to be written.
And while Simon celebrated, Luis commiserated, consoled himself, and began to recognize what he had accomplished.
LSV rewrote Magic history in rounds 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He was perfect. The greatest run in Pro Tour history in one tournament, just unreal. The perfect 16-0 season. Incredible.
He got past his quarterfinal opponent, Jeroen Canis of the Netherlands, but he ran afoul of Simon Gertzen from Germany, our Pro Tour champion.
Simon Gertzen, Pro Tour champion for San Diego 2010. Congratulations from everyone here.
Congratulations, Simon. That's a great job.
Whenever you don't win a tournament, whether you get 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever, you feel really bad in the moment, and then like the next day you feel great because you got 2nd or 4th in a Pro Tour, and that's awesome. That's a really good finish. In the moment, you just feel like, yeah, I almost got it. I could have got it.
I wouldn't say I was disappointed to see Luis lose in the semifinals. Like, I was rooting for him, but I don't think it took away from the accomplishment that he didn't get exactly first place. I still think it was something really awesome and historic and memorable. And you know, he played a good match. He played great Magic, and sometimes the actual result of the final match is not the thing that's most important.
It's really hard to want to change anything. I went 10-0 in Constructed. I guess 11-1 if you count the top 8. So even if looking back, Naya was not one of the all-time greats in terms of the deck, like it was just a deck, I think that I would just play it again, yeah.
Years later, now a Hall of Famer, a legend of Magic, and a stalwart of the game. How does Luis feel about his never-repeated run of wins? And will someone ever match it?
It's one of those things that I get to have that, again, it can only be tied, maybe beaten if someone wins then the top 8. That's the next step, I guess. and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm pretty glad about that.
It's one of the few things that he can hang his hat on and say, I'm the only person ever to done this. And because at the top levels of Magic, well, everybody's, hey, 8 Pro Tour top 8, so that guy has 12, he has 15, but undefeated's untouchable.
Given a long enough time horizon, yes, someone's going to do it, but the odds are so stacked against it because, first of all, it's hard to go 16-0, really hard. Second, you get a lot of times when you're 14-0 and it's just so tempting to take a draw.
I don't think that it's one of those things that's never going to happen again, but the fact that we've had 20 years of the Pro Tour or something like that, and it's only happened the one time, really does signify how special that day was and what an incredible run it was for Luis.
A Pro Tour win, Hall of Fame, 16-0, 6 GP wins. Where does that leave Luis in the pantheon of greats? And what is his legacy in the game he loves?
I think peak Luis, I think he's the second best player I've ever seen. I would only take Finkel above him.
Luis is very clearly in an elite class of his own, a top 5 Magic player.
I think people will remember him as one of the best natural, intuitive players and one of the best peak players ever. I think that that's going to be his legacy going forward, is that he might be the best player of all time at any one moment. I would give him that myself.
I think Luis is going to be remembered as just the guy that represented pro Magic to the community at large.
Luis is going to be remembered for a lot of things. I think, interestingly, first and foremost, his personality, which I think is interesting when you're talking about somebody who has such a huge career.
Honestly, Channel Fireball, I think, is the thing that will impact Magic the most when I'm gone. How many people have read articles, watched videos, and hopefully not only gotten better at Magic, but gotten more enjoyment from Magic. It has led to a lot of people enjoying the game and kind of learning more about the game, and more than any tournament results or anything like that, it's what got more people playing Magic, and that's kind of that's what I hope has the biggest impact.
He's just sort of the face of professional Magic, and for everyone who engages with Magic in the millions of different ways that people can engage with Magic, Luis sort of is the face at the top of the game. Like, if you want to be the best Magic player you can be, you want to be like Luis.